Okay, so we have got Star Wars: The Clone Wars. It's a game by Alexander Ortov, based on Pandemic by Matt Leacock. I'm excited about this because A, I love Star Wars. That's pretty cool. I was also a big fan of the Clone Wars series, the animated series. It gets actually, even as an adult, it gets super emotional and with the deep storylines. It was a very, very well done show that I highly encourage. It's also where Dave Filoni got his start, really leaning in, and now he's essentially George Lucas of now. But that's like actually, I'm just gonna say that the one critique I have about this game is it's based on the Clone Wars, but it doesn't use the art from the Clone Wars. Like but that's small because guess what? We get Jedi's and Sith. So very cool. Also on the side, we've got Mace Windu right up here, which is just sweet. And of course, Ahsoka Tano. We've got a whole bunch of different minis and then the board. So this is in the Pandemic system, published by Z-Man Games. And apparently it's similar to the World of Warcraft version of using the Pandemic system that came out earlier. But I'm not a World of Warcraft person. I maybe played it once. Just wasn't my thing, but Star Wars, yes. So once I saw this, definitely had to pick it up. So let's open her up. Oh, this box is on really tight. Wow. Okay. It's kind of sticking. There we go. Yeah, that's kind of a sticky cardboard. I don't know why. Okay, so immediately we've got the Clone Wars book. So it's got all the different information. A different thing about this one and regular Pandemic is that it is going to have a die. So we've got 7 Jedi miniatures, 4 villains, 3 blockades, and 36 droids, plus 6 different types of cards. Reference cards are always good. Slider per Pandemic. I like the amount of photos I'm already seeing in this to show different examples. I did watch the Watch It Played for this. I'm thankful Rodney Smith already has that out and that they contracted him to do that. And that's actually what also encouraged me of like, yes, go pick this up. Because it seems cool. Because the point of the game is your Jedi is running around the galaxy trying to defeat the different threats by completing different missions. Love this picture of the ship. Before the threat to the galaxy becomes too much. We've got the board, which is actually in its own shrink wrap. So good thing I still have my knife out. I don't always see the board in shrink wrap in games. Okay. These planets are pretty huge. We've got Ryloth, Geonosis, Tatooine, Christophsis. Nothing on the back, but it is a 3 folds of 6 segment board. It's pretty big. Corellia right here. Man. So if you're familiar with the series and different things, a lot of these planets are going to be meaningful to you. Got Coruscant down here, Todaria, wow, Moncal up in the corner, so this is also the similar layout to Star Wars Rebellion, with Coruscant being close to right here in the middle, Moncal being all the way up here, Ryloth and Geonosis, which is now Hutta. So I like that they've kept the universe actually consistent. I think the only differences are a little bit down here with where Mustafar and Malastare are, and Sullust, because in that game they're a little closer, and some of these other planets aren't even on that. But around the board, we've got the threat markers up here, so we're trying to win the game before it gets to Emperor Palpatine, because that's usually a good idea. Spot for our villains, our villain deck, our villain discard, and then per Pandemic, we've already got our invasion deck, invasion cards, and then what we're trying to work on, we'll have a deck of missions, and then there's 2 missions at a time, an orange one and a gray one, until there's only 1 left, and then you put both markers on whatever planet it is. And essentially we're going to have Jedi running all around this board, which is cool. Get all the missions done, and defeat whoever your villain is, or villains that you're competing against, then you win the game. But it is a game that is playable for 1 to 5 players, which should be pretty cool, and that's a pretty broad range. Let's check out this first deck of cards. these are different planets, it looks like. Yeah, so these are the invasion cards according to the rulebook. And so this will be a face down deck. Then we find, oh, there's the planet. So when this activates, so the orange mission would have stuff happen there based on what it is. But this is a nice little map of the galaxy. There's a red dot for where the planet actually is. So Moncal's up in the upper left corner. And you might be like, but this is a square. How do we know which way it's oriented? The stuff on the edge that's gray, might be hard to see. There we go. The spots on the edge that are gray help indicate the orientation of the board. Like that could be one thing just to make sure to pay attention to. And if you just keep these a certain way, but the problem is it looks exactly the same when it's flipped this way. So make sure when you flip it over, you just orient it to the board and it'll work right. So then we've got all these cards. It looks like they're not shuffled, which is fine. We can always do that. But these are going to be essentially cards that help you. You do have a hard hand limit of 7. And if you get above that, you'd have to discard down. So I know these are like different types of actions. So we've got like more assault and more stealth. And when you're doing your missions, you might choose, okay, we're going to do this one more stealthy or more assaulty. You have to make that choice. And then when you're doing your big missions, some of them will say on the cards whether you can do this one, both of them, whether you can use transportation. The transportation is kind of how you fly around. That's one thing I was noticing about the game when I was watching the Watch It Played, is that unlike regular Pandemic, you're not using these cards to travel to a particular planet or to a particular country like you do in Pandemic. Rather, you're just using it for movement, so double the flight value of a planet. And then armor is to help prevent damage, because you can get damage. And then there's also allies that you can have in the game. And so these are very traditional to the Clone Wars. So Padme, Hondo, C-3PO, R2-D2, the Bad Batch, Chancellor Palpatine. And these individuals are cards that are like a once used, then you discard it after that. Unlike these other cards that'll stay in your display area, because all the cards are open. Everybody knows what everybody has, because it's cooperative. Then these are the different cards for each one of the Jedi, which we've got. Let's actually go one by one and show these off. We've got Alas and Sakura. Sorry, I was way mispronouncing that. Which is a pretty cool mini. She's really like stretching out there. We've got Obi-Wan. Where's Obi-Wan? Oh, right here. We've got Obi-Wan. There we go. Which that's cool. Curious if you watched the Kenobi series on Disney Plus. I thought it was pretty good. I think it could be better. The original author actually wrote it as a movie, and then they stretched that out into man, this one's really in here. Stretched that out into a whole series, which I think it would have been better as a movie. Luminara. But these are really in there. Next up, we got Mace Windu. Anakin Skywalker. Because he was still Anakin at this point. Yoda. And this is definitely the look from the second movie. Yeah, there he is, little Yoda. Which I saw a picture of the original Yoda. It's in a museum right now. That thing has deteriorated a lot since that movie. Then Ahsoka Tano, of course, with their double lightsabers, one going the opposite direction. Ahsoka is such a cool character. I'm looking forward to the next series. It's going to come out. Then we've got reference cards. So your couple different actions are flying, attacking, reinforcing, attempt a mission, and then it's got information about blockades and where you start. So it's nice that they made a reference card that is also a random starting. That's a cool way to do that. Because otherwise the back was just going to be whatever. Okay, we got more cards. So those other ones were the squad cards. These are the squad cards. What are these ones? Is it the villain cards? No. Looks like we got more. A couple cards. These are more of the invasion cards, so essentially one per planet. There's 32 of those. These are the mission cards, I believe. Yeah, these are the mission cards. So if you notice what I was talking about, this card, in order to complete this, you'll roll the die. Where's that die? That's something I haven't found yet. Aha, hiding. I don't know why they do this. It's just hiding. Like, you could have just put it here. It's a huge die, so let me show this first. This is a lot bigger than I expected this to be. But essentially, you've got damage you'll do, which is like the star with the point, and then there's the blast icon, which is the damage that's going to come back to your character. And so if you notice, this one has 3 damage going out, and then 1 coming back to your character. So you'd roll the die, and that attempting a mission or whatever, and so in this case it'd be 3. And then if I have cards in my tableau, or if I'm on a planet where there's another Jedi and they have these cards in their tableau, we can combine them. And in this case, we'd be able to use all the symbols except for what's that one? The armor. So we'd be able to use assault, stealth, and transportation, versus this one's assault, stealth, and armor. And that's so that way you can hit that number. Very cool. There's a lot of these. Children of the Force, the Zillow Beast, tipping points, the Mandalore plot, different things from Hunt for Zero. Yeah, these are different episodes from the Clone Wars. So like Zero is a hut. Like he's a little hut. He's like really like a little, almost like a baby. Liberty on Ryloth, Battle of Kashyyyk, Witches of the Mist. Ooh, that's cool. Okay, we got the die. Let's go get to the villains in a minute. We'll save that for last. The other pieces that come in this, we've got the 2 missions. These are pretty thick. These are like a good chunky plastic backgammon piece. But the orange mission and the gray mission, and these will go out on the planets. So that's super easy to see. This is the solo marker. So if you're playing the solo game, you'll use this, which I might do that later. And then this is the reminder marker that you'd actually put on, I believe, on the invasion deck to remind you for things if the game tells you to do that. These are track markers, one for the threat and then one elsewise. In this baggie, we also have the one clip, and I'll find out where that goes in a little bit. But we've got the blockades, which are the droid control centers from episode 1 and throughout the Clone Wars. For a while, at least. So we got 3 of those. We got 36 of these little drones. These are the ones from episode 1, which there's no droidekas or other droids in here, but it's just these little Roger guys. And so they're pretty tiny, as you can tell. But they've got definitely cool detail. Let me grab some other ones, because there's some other poses, I believe. Yeah, this one's like one run-in. Let me grab a couple of these for you, and this one's kneeling down. So we've got, for example, one that is just standing there at attention. We've got one that is running with his guns ablazing. Focus. There we go. That's pretty cool. And then one that's kneeling down to shoot. They didn't have to do this. Like, they could have just made the same mold over and over again, but I like that they didn't. Gives some variability. Now, in full transparency, I don't have this. I wanted this. If you pre-order, if you got the game from your local game store and they were part of a program, they're part of a program called Hobby Plus from Asmodee, then you got another set of these. And this is probably one of my favorite promotions and stuff that I would love to see in more Kickstarters. And that promotion was, these were actually like a golden color, like the ones in the movies. Like, that's just kind of cool. But that was only to the first like batch of the games going out. And the other hard part about this game is that it really only came out with about a week notice, because I'm actually, for our nonprofit, Tabletop Alliance, which we send games to schools, libraries, and community programs for free all across the US. So please feel free to like sign up if you're an educator or community leader that wants free games and the support and knowledge and resources to go out and use games in your context. Please reach out. But I get all the notifications from distribution channels, and this game was announced about a week before it hit the street. Now, granted, there's like supply chain things, so I understand some trepidation and kind of building things up and don't want to create like a wingspan scenario where it was built up, and then it's sold out and then everybody gets mad. I get it. But maybe give a little bit more heads up than that. Okay, so now let's look at the villains. So we've got Asajj Ventress. And so how this works is you have the villain, and then on the back, once you do all the missions, then you can fight the villain. And they have their own thing, which I don't want to spoil for myself, so I'm not really looking at that too hard. Thanks for understanding. Ooh, these lightsabers are super, like, yeah, these lightsabers are super spindly, like super thin, like they'll bend and stuff, so be careful with these. But this mini is legit. She's an amazing character in the show. Very cool. We've got General Grievous. With, of course, the 4 lightsabers out. His big cloak. I guess just a cool mini. We've got Darth Maul. Now, it's going to be curious what version of Darth Maul this is. Okay, so he's still, no, he's got the robotic legs. They did that right. Because obviously, sorry, you can't see that yet. In episode 1, he gets chopped in half. And in the Clone Wars, he essentially gets taken after episode 1 to a garbage planet. Because that was like a big shoot. And he got taken off as garbage. And he builds himself mech legs. And so he kind of looks like a big spider. Later on, he gets better stuff and builds it into just 2 legs. So this is kind of later on in the Clone Wars. That's cool with his dual lightsaber. And then last up, Count Dooku. These capes are pretty beefy, actually. Very cool. Now, there's no wash or anything on these, and I know I am definitely going to go back and forth on, do I paint it? Do I not paint it? Do I paint it? Do I not paint it? And I might paint like one of these at a time. Just go spray it up, prime it, and then maybe paint that one. In addition to each of the villains, each villain also has a deck of cards. So like, let's just look at Count Dooku's, for example. And this is different stuff that'll happen. I still have to look at the rule book for how when these get flipped over. But it's got different scenes from stills from when they've been on camera in the past. So these are the ones for Asajj Ventress. That actually is art from the Clone Wars. It's close to. Night Sister. Okay, these planet, so every one of these has the same Planet Under Siege card, which is the one that I believe actually advances like the pandemic mechanisms. Make them suffer, crush them, Roger, Roger. Yep, Planet Under Siege. This is him actually taking over, I believe that's the Yin Brotherhood. No, not the Yin Brotherhood. I forget their name off the top of my head. Submit or Suffer, so that's Darth Maul. Savage, like it's savage but pronounced Savage. It's like another one from his like race of people that essentially Count Dooku and Chancellor Palpatine took, but then it's in front of the board of the Hutts, which is cool. Different moment from the series. And so Savage Oppress, see? Savage Oppression. That's like that was the name of the character. And then Vengeance with a couple different factions behind him. Very cool. Well, this was Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Looking forward to trying it out. I'll shoot some footage with my my camera and my gimbal to really get some nice shots for you. But I think we might try this out later. So looking forward to that, and that'll be in another video, so make sure to subscribe to this one, so that way you can get all the different videos and content we do, as well as I encourage you to go check out our podcast. It's on every platform out there that you can enjoy, where we do different game reviews and talking about different gaming content using our educational lenses. So enjoy, and may the Force be with you.